Hi folks, so I thought I'd go through some of the comments that I've had in recent videos and discuss some of those. So I was going to start off with the most recent one. So this is from Top Cat, referring to my last video that I did, painting a winter landscape with distant church and houses. And they write, I have my volume on full, but I can barely hear you. Can you please try to be a bit louder or clearer? The ads are loud and clear. Now I know in old videos I did have a few audio problems, but I do use a microphone. I've got it on now. I've played the video back and it seems to be fine to me, to be honest with you. So I'm not quite sure what the problem is there. In terms of the ads, just to let you know, the videos on Patreon are all ad free. So if you do want to watch the videos without any advertisements, join me over at patreon.com/Stephen Cronin. The one thing I would say is if I'm trying something a little bit different and I've got to really concentrate, I do tend to sort of lower my voice a bit. Sometimes I don't speak at all if I'm really trying to focus on something. So that will be, I might come across as a bit mumbling, but normally I do try and speak as clearly as I possibly can so you can follow along with what I'm doing and see what I'm mixing on the palette and whatnot. So apologies if you can't hear that, but I don't use the most expensive kit. It's the same with the materials. I've just got this little cheap microphone that I bought on Amazon, so hopefully it does the job most of the time. Moving on, a good cause for you in response to, I did a video, Paul over on Patreon mentioned he was going to go on holiday and he was wondering whether it was worth taking his kit. So I did a video called Is It Worth Painting Outdoors, or Just Wait Till You Get Home. And Nav wrote, a great addition to your outdoor watercolour painting kit is to have a small butane gas hand torch to speed up drying times. I did mention in the video that one of the problems I have with painting outdoors is I can't use my hairdryer. Now for me, my hairdryer is one of my most valuable bits of kit, because without that I just don't feel in control when it's like, especially doing things like skies and that sort of thing. I'll put it on and then gravity is just slowly pulling everything down, and with my hairdryer I can just fix it in place. Without my hairdryer it drives me mad. So they're mentioning that particularly on cold days they use their butane gas hand torch. I've also stopped using hairdryers in my studio and now use a quicker, quieter and more efficient hot air hand blower. Both of these can be purchased cheaply off eBay. Using these two drying tools reduces your drying times by 50%. Drying times, I ain't really got a problem. I only use the hairdresser about 5-10 seconds, hairdryer. So the speed of drying isn't really an issue for me personally. And they continue, they're the best upgrades I've ever invested in for my watercolour painting. Give them a quick try, mate, and I promise you won't look back. I think I'll stick with my hairdryer for now. I've had it for years. I think it's about the third one I've used in about 20 years. They do burn out eventually, but I couldn't paint without it, to be honest with you. So Nola writes, why when you do it, it looks so damn easy. I do the same thing and it never looks the same, but I do have the answer too. You're doing it daily and gaining experience. I only dabble occasionally, get frustrated and stop till I see your next painting and then become re-inspired. Well, yeah, it's exactly as Nola's written in the question. It's all about practice. The more you practice, the easier it gets. Nothing I do is complicated. If it was complicated, I wouldn't do it in the first place. My whole ethos is about just fast and loose painting without any faffing around or messing about with detail. Most of the detail just happens by accident, just purely by chance. And it's all about doing, that's why I move the brush so quickly, because you get little random marks that look as if you've done it deliberately and you've spent an hour doing all that little bit of fine detail, but really I'm just thrashing the brush around. I genuinely find the quicker I paint, the better the paintings turn out. I understand a lot of people do get frustrated and stop and need some sort of inspiration to get them going, but I would just if you can paint daily. My paintings only take about 15-20 minutes, even in a busy schedule, you can find some even 10 minutes you can do a decent watercolour painting. It's all practice. There's never any wasted paintings. Just keep practicing and you're always learning something new to take forward to the next painting. Going back to the painting outdoors video, Doug writes, I've seen a variety of different responses on this topic, from one artist who sketches on plein air before going back to the studio, one who frequently does finished works on site, and one who likes 1 in 10 of his outdoor paintings. I do work outdoors, but I'll often paint a sketch to finish in the studio. That's probably a good way of doing it, to be honest. I mean, I've always tended to use photographs, but I can see the benefits of using sketches. The trouble with photographs, I know it's quick and simple and easy and possibly lazy, but with sketches you can fit in a lot more. I mean, I've tried using panoramic, putting the panoramic setting on the camera so you can sort of move and grab more of the scene, but again you're still capturing a lot of the scene that you don't need or you don't want. A sketch, you can put it exactly what you want, so sketching is something I keep meaning to do but never get around to it. Doug continues, I usually paint from photos, but as I discovered after breaking a foot and having friends send me photos to paint while recovering, that painting a place I've never seen before is extremely difficult. Maybe a bit of my own experience goes into the painting. I think, yeah, that's without a shadow of a doubt. I think it's so much better to actually be there. I mean, I paint from photographs. I try and paint from my own photographs, but I like painting lakes and mountains, and I live in the Midlands and we just haven't got any lakes and mountains around here, so I rely a lot on the internet and online photographs. But I do wish I could use my own photographs more. So thanks for your comment, Doug. I've recently sort of temporarily moved into the front room of the house, which is where I am now. For years I've painted round the back. The trouble is, like today, I paint in the conservatory and the sun's round the back and it just gets that hot, it drives me round the bend. So consequently I have to be very, very careful not to get paint all up the wall. I don't know if you've seen the wall, I don't know if I've shown it, the wall on round the back, it's like covered in paint all up the side. I said to my wife, I can wipe it off, don't worry about it, it's only watercolour, it'll wipe off. But what I found is, although watercolours will wipe off, if you leave them for 10 years, they tend to stick. And you might just as well have used oil paints. I just couldn't get it off, so I think there's a bit of redecoration needing doing in the conservatory. But Paul says, so I did mention before about trying not to make a mess in the front so I don't upset the wife. Paul writes, I think it's true that you've slowed down very slightly, which the most recent videos you may have noticed I'm a little bit more deliberate. I don't go like thrash it like that, more sort of bit slower, and then I'll just have to make sure there's no splattered paint anywhere. So Paul thinks I have slowed down slightly, more recently under threat of the consequences for splattering the paint around in the current location, which, yeah, I don't think the paintings have turned out any worse, really, to be honest with you. The one I did last time, I thought that was one of my better ones, really, especially because I've always struggled with buildings, trying to find a sort of quick way of painting buildings without any faffing around. And I noticed in the last video I just used a small Ron Ranson hake and just blocked it in sort of en masse in the background, and even something as simple as like that, it definitely adds another dimension to your paintings, just sort of distant buildings with like a big church spire thing going on. And it really, I think it really does help, and I'm going to look to do more of that sort of thing in the future. So so moving on, slides written in response to the fact that one of the advantages of round the back, I've got a big French easel, and so what I used to do at the end of the painting was put the white mat on it, as if it looks sort of framed. I haven't done that in the front yet because I'm using a tabletop easel and I can't really, it doesn't really work as well, so consequently I haven't really matted the finished painting. And when I do the end of video review of the painting and the close-ups, it's just the paper clipped to the board. But Slide writes, just a tip for those that like to use a white mat when your painting is done. If you're like me, Sometimes you want to get in there and adjust things with a mat on and splash paint and water onto the mat and ruin your mat. I found a simple solution to the problem. It costs about $6. Get yourself a can of flat white primer and spray the mat that you want to use. Give it 2 or 3 coats on both sides. I used a primer made by Rust-Oleum. What I found is that once the paper is painted, you can clean paint off it and still have a nice white mat to showcase your painting. Hopefully this little tip will help some people. That does sound like a good idea, because what I did was just bought 4 mats, and every time it gets too bad, just use another one. But I've stuck them in the garage with all the other junk, and I don't even know where they are, to be honest with you. But yeah, but giving them a coat, a coat of paint which you can then wipe off, just that sound like a good idea. Does seem a shame, because I'll do a painting, put the mat on, and you can see all stains around it, but it's not designed to be hanging on the wall. It's just to sort of showcase the painting at the end of the video, just so that it looks nicer when I go in and show the finer details of it. I did a book recently called How Art Keeps Me Sane, A Creative Path to Mental Wellbeing. It was in response to I did see these art and mental health videos about a year ago. I think there's about 8 videos in the playlist, sort of championing the benefits of art and how it can help people with their mental health. And so with the introduction to my new book video that I did a couple of weeks ago, Sandra writes, "Your book sounds like something I need at this moment to get me back on the path of painting again. Many thanks." And I hope the book, I mean, it's only sold about 15 copies so far, so it's but hopefully, I think with books it's the sort of thing that once it's out there, it might not sell at the moment, maybe needs a bit of marketing, can always sell in the future, so I ain't going to worry too much. But I hope it does help a lot of people who are suffering with their mental health. There is a lot more to come on that, to be honest. I mean, I've barely scratched the surface, and I think videos as well. I mean, I've thought about even doing group video calls. I know on Google Meet you can set up group video calls and then broadcast it live on a YouTube channel. Now that's something I'm seriously thinking about. But Paul also writes, in reference to when I did a video last week, chapter 3 is called Don't Panic, stressing the importance of making the most of opportunities. And Paul writes, "I've kept my disaster paintings for ages now, and they help you to see how you've progressed." In response, I think the video was talking about how there are no wasted paintings. I've always advocated this. Don't throw them in the bin, look back at them and you can see your progression over time. Paul continues, also, "I've done many paintings that I've decided to abandon part way through and then change it to something completely different. Sometimes it even works." I think I've done that myself a few times, to be honest. I've started off doing one thing and it looks an absolute mess, and often what I'll do is just sort of dry it, re-wet it, and then just go off on a completely different angle, maybe redo the sky and then work again on the background, and just sort of go with the flow and just see where the painting takes you. Paul comments on another the chapter 2 of my new book reveals my place of sanctuary. This is where I was talking about my sort of local beauty spots that I like to visit, not only to find sort of peace and tranquility, but also see what might be suitable for a composition, might work as a painting, as a watercolour. And Paul writes, "The other thing I noticed a few years ago, now looking from the point of view as an artist, is you do notice things look differently and you decide if it's suitable for an art piece. Things do look differently." And I know what he's trying to say. You walk round, I think it was Keith Fennick I first heard mention it, watching one of his videos years ago, and he was saying, once you start painting, whenever you're walking around, you start looking at things and taking in little details, and until you start painting, you don't realise how many different shades of green there are. It's incredible. And I'm looking out the window now, just looking at the trees and the bushes, and you can see all the subtle differences in the sort of spectrum of colours. And it's nice to notice these things and take them in and try and remember them, or photograph them, or sketch them, or paint them as you're out there, and sort of make the most of what the natural world offers. I started doing a lot of YouTube short videos recently. I did read about how they help promote the longer form videos, and you do get some decent viewing numbers off them, and people seem to find them interesting. And what I've found is the scraping videos are always seem to be more popular than the other one, any other types. Learning how to scrape, whether it's rocks with a card, or even using your finger to scrape out trees and branches and whatnot. And Sue writes, you make it look so easy. Again, it's just practice. Anyone can do what I do, honestly, and I mean that. Just a bit of practice. It ain't rocket science. I wish I could get the timing right for scraping out. Now that is probably the most crucial part of all. If you do it too early, you'll find it just fills back in again and there's nothing there. If you do it too late and the paint's dry, then nothing will happen. The paint's set now and you can't change it. It's all about finding that sort of sweet spot in the middle, sort of half dry. I tend to put it on a little bit, maybe a little bit thicker, a bit more paint, less water, so you can just straight away then without having to wait for it to dry. If you put it on thicker, you can just do it straight away. She likes the way I scrape the posts and overhead lines out too. I mean, the overhead lines I find generally tend to be like she's referring to like telegraph poles. I mean, telegraph poles, you don't really think of them as artistic elements that you could put in a painting, but there's something about them. They just add there's just a bit of character for me that the telegraph poles have got. When you just see the lines, especially when you're doing between houses or maybe stretching back over a field or something, it's just another bit of interest for the viewer to see in your artwork. I did a short recently called Try and Persevere with Your Hate Brush and You Will Not Regret It. I think this was in response to I've been in art shops and I've seen very similar to the Ron Ranson Hake brushes, great big wide things, but you can tell they're cheap and they're selling them too cheap. You can just tell they're going to be rubbish and you're not going to be able to get like a sharp edge on them. Paul writes, I found the Ron Ranson one to be good as well as other brushes by Pro Art. They're good quality, do last, and definitely worth the extra pennies, and they're not ridiculously expensive either. I think the last Ron Ranson large hake brush I bought was about £12, something like that, whatever that is, I don't know, for $15, something like that. I think it's a small outlay for a quality brush, really. You really need to give yourself a chance, and I think a decent brush, for the sake of 12 quid, will give you the best chance. Trying to paint along using cheap and nasty brushes, you really are making it difficult for yourself. You make life a lot easier if you just buy a decent brush. I don't use expensive paper, I don't use expensive paints, nothing else. But I do like a decent brush. That's the one thing I would definitely recommend. I did a video short last week called The Benefits of Using a Hairdryer with Your Watercolours. Paul writes, the hairdryer in the videos doesn't bother me in the slightest. Referring to the volume, a lot of people do comment on the basis that's too loud. Can I edit out the noise? Unfortunately I can't now. It's just not worth it. It would take ages to edit out the noises. So it's just part of the videos, unfortunately. Paul says that he doesn't use a hairdryer. Another way to make sure things don't run down the paper as much is to tilt the board so it doesn't run as much. Because I'm painting, I tend to have, because I'm videoing the painting, I tend to have it upright like Bob Ross does in his videos, because the camera's there and it's coming. Obviously you don't have to have it at the same angle as me. You can lower it as long as you've got a slight angle. I wouldn't have it flat, but just have a slight angle so there's a little bit of gravity pulling it down. But it doesn't have to be the same as what I do it like that. especially because if you're using the classic beginner mistake is to use too much water, and so obviously if it's like that, the water's just going to be running down, it's going to drive around the bend. You'll have a better chance if you just have it at a slight angle, only slight, it doesn't have to be much, and you can always move it up when you get a bit more experienced. Paul continues, also I found painting outside doesn't have the same issue, but then maybe it's because he's been doing it this week in hot sun and it does help the drying process. We are in the middle of a lot of hot weather at the moment, even in the UK. I say hot weather, it's gone up to about 30 degrees, which for us in England is hot. I appreciate a lot of countries have it a lot worse than that and also have it year round. I couldn't live somewhere like that, it'd do me in. I think about 18 degrees is about my sort of comfy spot. Anything more than that, I just can't stand being hot. I mean, I'm sat here now in just my boxer shorts, probably still aren't going to stand up and show you my glory. But I did another short a couple of weeks ago called Stop Being a Perfectionist with Your Paintings and Just Leave It Alone. Now this was all about I think a lot of people's problems when they just fiddle and fuss around with paintings, they never know when to stop. One thing I've always done, when I think I'm done, I'll just go and stand as far away as possible and just look at it from a distance. And if you've got all the sort of tonal contrasts and you can see the shapes and the elements that you're trying to do, and it looks good, then you're very, very close then to finishing. Paul writes that definitely write about the fiddling and faffing about with your paintings. Sometimes doing so it makes it worse, and I'm as guilty as anyone doing this. And I think that goes for a lot of people. I mentioned in the video that my dad has the same problem. He calls himself a bit of a perfectionist, and when he does his models, he finds it hard to put them down and stop. Paul writes at the end, love your dad's stuff by the way, it's good to see. If you haven't seen his latest video, I put it on a couple of weeks ago. It's a model, it's like I think it's called his treehouse clock model. He's done like a little clock, it's about that big, and he's sort of done like a proper clock that works with the clock face and everything, and it's done as like a sort of treehouse model type of thing. Turned out really well, it looks really good. You'll have a look at the video and you'll see it. Deborah writes, referring to the video I did, an introduction to my new book, How Art Keeps Me Sane. She writes, painting is the same for me. It keeps my mind preoccupied so I can stop thinking so much about the things I like to worry about too much. And I think, yeah, I mean, obviously I do painting, but really it could be any sort of art or craft, or pretty much anything. Walking's a good one as well. If you worry, just go for a walk. I think that's my sort of default mechanism. I'm lucky really, I'm about 5 minutes walk from the local woods, and I find a lot of sort of solace in the woods. It's a great place to be, just sort of immerse yourself in the natural world. Just listen to the birds and just watch the squirrels running up and down the trees. So Muzzbuzz asked me if I ever do commissions. I've been asked once or twice over the years, but I always give them the same answer, which I think I probably did 3 or 4 right at the start, and I found that my biggest problem with commissions is I tighten up. I like to paint fast and loose and sort of go with the flow, and I'm never quite sure what's going to happen next and exactly how the painting's going to turn out. What I find with commissions is the person who wants the commission obviously has some idea of how it looks, and if they send you some sort of reference, like a photograph or something, you sort of instinctively think, well, I need to try and make it look as much like this photograph as I possibly can, and so I find myself painting in a completely different way and just don't enjoy it. I can't paint loosely, because if I paint loosely, it's not going to look quite like the photograph, and so I just never done commissions at all. I did 1 or 2 and just hated them. And Muzzbuzz replied, I love that part of the joy is not knowing how it will come out. I kind of feel the same about his game. He's doing a computer game at the moment. Coming from a music background, I like the idea of jamming it out where there's intentionality, but also finding your way as you play and listen to what else is coming in at the same time. So yeah, same sort of principle, like with music, just jamming, everyone's just playing the instruments and you're just sort of making it up as you go along, and a lot of the times, I'm pretty sure some of the great music from history came about the same way, just the band just jamming around and you just see what ideas and you just play on each other's inspirations. So thanks for listening, and I'll end this one for now, and I'll leave you with Paul's latest post today, Thursday the 26th of June, over on the community page on my Patreon channel. There's an art and mental well-being chat page. Paul posts on it daily with inspirational words of wisdom to try and help anyone who may be suffering with their mental health. Today's post reads, "Let's be good to people for no reason, simply because kindness can help make someone's day a little brighter." So I'll leave you with those words. If you want to read the rest of Paul's messages, he writes them daily. Join us over at patreon.com/Stephen Cronin. Go over to the community section and have a look in the art and mental well-being page and just join in. You can write to Paul and he'll respond every single time. So if you need someone to talk to, Paul's your man. So thanks for listening, and I'll catch me in the next video. I'll go through a few more comments. So cheers for now. I'll catch you later.